What is up, everybody, and welcome to FLW Videos. So a ton of people in my comment section have been asking me left and right, what about Mewtwo's new movesets? Are any of them going to be worth using? So in today's episode, we are going to be talking about those three movesets: Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, and Flamethrower. We will be talking about some comparisons between the three, which one is going to be the best out of the three, and then finally whether or not it is worth it to go ahead and TM your Mewtwo over to it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the episode. So the first thing that we are going to do is actually break down a Pokemon Go Hub article that was written by Fit City. Fit City actually has a YouTube channel, so if you are interested, I will have a link in the description. I would highly recommend you to check out his content. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the comparison for the three moves. So as far as the situation is concerned, we will be talking about Mewtwo versus a Jinx as if it were going against a Rayquaza. Up next is Mewtwo versus Moltres and Entei against a Registeel, and then finally Mewtwo versus Raikou and Zapdos against a Kyogre. So let's go ahead and move into the ice typing. The first thing that we need to talk about is Jinx will be using Frost Breath and Avalanche, while Mewtwo is going to use Psycho Cut and Ice Beam. So you might be asking yourself the question, well, why not Confusion? That's simply because the Psycho Cut has a higher energy per second. So if you go ahead and check out the overall damage, you will see that Mewtwo actually outclasses Jinx by quite a bit. So this may not seem significant, but Jinx is considered to be one of the best Ice-type attackers, and the fact that Mewtwo is able to outclass it is going to be a fairly interesting moveset. But there is some trouble on the horizon because of Mamoswine. So let's go ahead and take a look at Mamoswine and compare the stats. As you will see, first things first, when you are comparing Jinx to Mamoswine, go ahead and check out the attack stats. But beyond the attack stats, basically if Mamoswine can end up getting an ideal moveset or even something as equivalent as what Jinx has, it is very possible that it will be neck and neck with Mewtwo or potentially outperform it. And that is going to be a great case scenario for anyone out there, because when you're comparing a non-legendary to a legendary, non-legendaries are so much more accessible. The candy doesn't cost as much because you don't necessarily have to access it through raids. So to be honest, between the comparison, I'm personally very excited about Mamoswine, and I'm kind of on the fence as to whether or not I would actually have that Mewtwo with Ice Beam and, basically power it up for that. But I wanted to go ahead and show you some gym footage as to how strong this Mewtwo is with Ice Beam. So what we're going to be doing now is going up against a Dragonite. And oh my gosh, it absolutely crushed Dragonite. Basically because of Dragonite's typing, the ice move is going to be perfect for Mewtwo. As you will see, it basically only ended up taking 2 charge moves to actually take it out, which is absolutely insane. That just goes to show how powerful Mewtwo is. But now that we talked about Ice Beam, let's go ahead and move on to Flamethrower. So for the results against Flamethrower, we're actually going to have Moltres and Entei using the same movesets, and that's going to be Fire Spin and Overheat versus a Psycho Cut Flamethrower Mewtwo. As you will see for the overall damage, in this case, Moltres still outperforms Entei as usual, but Mewtwo gets outperformed by Moltres and Entei by quite a bit. So you might ask yourself the question, well, surely that means that Flamethrower isn't worth it. Well, I wish it were that simple. But if you were to check out a raid versus a Venusaur, you would see that with a typing of Grass and Poison, all of a sudden Mewtwo is not looking so bad. So of course you will see Moltres with the Sky Attack in at the first position. So then you will see that Mewtwo is actually in second using Flamethrower. Now if you are as curious as I am, you want to know the difference between the Ice Beam and the Flamethrower. So every once in a while there is a case where Flamethrower will technically outperform Ice Beam, although people consider Ice Beam to be the best moveset. But with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the third and final moveset that we will be talking about today, and that is Thunderbolt. So when comparing for the Thunderbolt Mewtwo, we're going to compare against a Raikou and a Zapdos. So we're actually going to be using Thunder Shock and Wild Charge for Raikou, and then Thunder Shock and Thunderbolt for Zapdos. And if you go ahead and check out the overall DPS, you will see that Raikou still holds in at number 1, while Zapdos actually falls short against Mewtwo. So Mewtwo actually slots in to that second position. This is going to be a fairly interesting setup. You have a Pokemon that is not getting the stab type bonus off of this, but Mewtwo actually slots in at second. It's still not able to outperform a Raikou though. So let's go ahead and sum it up, and I'll give you my opinion on whether or not you should use these movesets. So if I were to assign an order to all of these movesets as far as the most usable moveset down to the least, I would honestly put Ice Beam in at the number 1 position. In second, I would probably put the Thunderbolt, and then in third, it's probably going to be Flamethrower. I would say the Ice Beam is fairly interesting, but because of Mamoswine coming in at the Generation 4, it's very possible that Mamoswine could outperform Mewtwo. And for me personally, that makes me nervous to go ahead and dedicate a Mewtwo specifically for an Ice Beam. Mostly because of the fact that a non-legendary Pokemon could outperform it. I've already got some 100%, 98% Mamoswines that as soon as Gen 4 gets here, I'll go ahead and be able to evolve it. Of course, it is going to be depending on the moveset, so what I would recommend you to do is actually not go ahead and use any of these movesets until Generation 4 gets here. And once they do, then you can decide, at least as far as the comparison between the two. But hey, at the end of the day, you can always just TM it back to something like a Psychic if you just want to use Mewtwo in that manner. So you can maybe look at it as a temporary use versus a full-time use. I'm personally not going to recommend you investing a ton of rare candies into a Mewtwo and then specifically use it for any of these movesets. But anyways, I hope you did enjoy this episode. Hopefully this did help you decide whether or not you want to use these movesets. They're definitely going to be a fun moveset for sure. I'm most interested in Ice Beam personally, and that's going to lead into the question of the day. Which moveset would you use for Mewtwo? Whether it's going to be that Ice Beam, the Flamethrower, or the Thunderbolt. Definitely let me know in the comments section below, and I will see you next time.
Hit me like a tidal wave.